welcome to Rotted Reviews, and today I'm coming at you with a double feature of the 33rd and the 34th film entries to bear the Amityville title. The 2021 movie Amityville Scarecrow and Amityville Cult. Now, there's a reason that I'm doing this as a double feature, and it's not just that I don't want to allocate two separate videos to these fucking movies, but also because they're so similar that once I get past the spoiler-free plot synopsis, I'm going to be able to describe them both equally using the exact same words. So, Amityville Scarecrow, directed by Jack Mundy and written by Shannon Holiday, this movie follows a fractured family that comes into inheritance of an old campground. This campground, which inexplicably is located in the UK, bears the Amityville name and was once the home of a very, successful caravan park, summer camp kind of thing. They had a cornfield maze, so on and so forth, and the recipients of this inheritance are kind of divided on how to go about this. One of them wants to bring it back up to spec, clean it up, open it back up. The other one just wants to sell, forget about it, and break off from the family from there. And of course, things go wrong in the history of the land and a house that used to reside there, which bears some passing resemblance to the 𝗘𝗾𝗄𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗀 murders, but not quite. Starts to go kind of haywire when a scarecrow starts to, murder people. And as far as Amityville Cult, written and directed by Trey Murphy, this follows the character of Stanley 𝗘𝗾𝗄𝗃, the name obviously being a nod to the original murders, who comes across an inheritance of a house. He has really no familial connections or any knowledge of his family tree. He only knew his mom, and once he's finding out that his grandmother left him this house by a kind of a mysterious source, he goes and checks it out, and in doing so, he finds journals and so forth and learns more about the backstory of his family, as well as the backstory of this town, which seems to be a demon-worshipping cult kind of thing, and he gets trapped in the middle of it. That's the movie. And so that's the spoiler-free synopsis of these films. I'm not going to go into it any further than that in case anybody actually wants to watch these. So let's get down to what I thought of them. They were terrible. But the way that they were terrible was kind of not interesting, actually the furthest thing from it, but kind of unique. The camera work and the sound design and so on and so forth were not great. They were amateurish, but they were not terrible either. It just kind of looked like a low-budget production that needed more polish and more practice on both of the films. However, it's the storylines themselves that proved to be absolutely intolerable. Both of these movies relied so much on expositional dialogue that it was just so fucking boring. Almost everything about the secrets of these families and the secrets of these houses and the secrets of these towns and campgrounds and so on and so forth were explained to the audience by characters talking to one another and telling these stories. Very, very little of it was actually shown. Kudos more to Amityville Cult for doing a little bit more show, don't tell, but even so, it did fall back on way, 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 way too much expositional dialogue. It felt like I was basically just listening to somebody sitting in a chair telling me a story, a bad story. And so although these weren't the most terrible movies in the Amityville franchise, they weren't intolerable on the same level as, say, Amityville Mount Misery Road or Amityville Vanishing Point, they still were guilty of one of the biggest sins that a movie can be: boring. There was so little that actually happened in these films that I just found myself not caring at all about any of the characters. If they were starting to get eviscerated in gory fashion, I would have been the happiest man on earth. I had zero connection to them, and at least we would have been presented with something visually interesting. As it was, even the kills and so on and so forth that did happen were largely somewhat implied, but it was the kind of thing where the camera would jerk away at the last second, or the angle would be shown so that you didn't actually have to see any real gore. It was just kind of somebody approaches somebody with a knife, the angle changes, a little bit of a gruesome action happen, but you don't actually see it, and all you see is blood coming out of the character's mouth after the injury itself. So not very interesting storylines, not very interesting characters, not very interesting kills, not very interesting gore, not very interesting cinematography, and overall, not very interesting movies. These are both available right now on Tubi TV, and honestly, I would recommend against the watch. A lot of times when we have movies like this, I would say that, they could be so bad that they're good, or they could at least be fun to watch with friends. But honestly, these don't fall into that category. There was so little going on that I can't find any instance in which there would be any entertainment value whatsoever, no matter how high you are, no matter how much of a group of friends you're in. It's just going to put you to sleep. Both of them. And so with that being said, I think I'll go ahead and sign off from this video. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you on my next review. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.